Welcome to Key Conversations. My name is CJ Norman.
And I'm Katy Norman. We're a husband and wife real estate team, and this podcast is meant to feel like you're listening in on a conversation between friends.
Each week, we share real stories, simple frameworks, and honest advice we'd give our own family. Whether you're thinking of buying, selling, downsizing, or just trying to make smart choices with the home you're living in, we're here to help.
No pressure.
No fluff.
Just clear guidance you can actually use. Well, hi, and welcome back. We're excited. Obviously, I'm Katy Norman.
CJ Norman.
And today we're going to be talking about some of the most searched and asked questions on like Google or AI, really talking about what the most searched and asked questions are by home buyers and home sellers. So whenever you're buying or selling a house, like what are the questions that people are asking? We kind of wanted to start there so that in this phase where we don't have a whole lot of questions from viewers yet, we could try to anticipate what your questions would be so that we can provide value in these stages of your.
So if you're, I agree. So if you're a home buyer or a home seller and you're just thinking, I think it's time to either sell my home or buy my home, these are some of the questions that would likely be some of the first things that come to mind for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we, so in full transparency, we pulled, we asked, we asked our friend ChatGPT what some of the questions, what the most asked questions are. But we also, there's a tool online that will actually pull the data of what people actually are searching. And so we pulled a lot of these questions from there. And some of those questions end up being redundant. So it's like, how much can my house sell for? How much can I, it's I can't even think of another way to ask the question. Yeah, they're all kind of related. But it's the same question, asked three different ways.
Yeah. So instead of your Google Gemini answer, we're going to be the AIs, the GPTs answering for you. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we also decided to do this in a little bit of a reverse order. I feel like a lot of times people start with the buying. We're going to start with the home seller questions. So, CJ, you want to take these?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So, one of the most asked questions, of course, is, like I just said, what is my home worth?
Yeah, good one. So, we should just go to Zillow and get the Zestimate and then call it a day, right?
Absolutely not.
No. Okay. So how homes are priced out is by looking at comparable sales. So we're going to look at ideally the last 6 months and within that neighborhood that your home is in. Obviously, there's situations where it gets a little bit more complex, like if you're on the lake or if there's, a lot more land that you have compared to your neighbors. But just think of a typical neighborhood where every house is somewhat similar in size, age of build and all that. So we're going to look at, last 6 months, what homes in this neighborhood sold for what? And then we can get granular on how many square feet does that home or those homes have versus my home? We could look on the MLS, the multiple listing service, and look at pictures and look at those homes. Were they built in 1990, but did they make it look like a 2026 home before selling? While mine is a time capsule from 95.
Yep, that's going to make a big difference.
Yeah.
Obviously, bedrooms, bathroom count, how many of those you have, how many garage stalls you have can make a big difference. I was just talking to someone, they were thinking about adding an additional garage stall to their house, and they're wondering, will this add value? And sometimes the answer is absolutely, and sometimes the answer is we don't know. There really isn't data that exists on that currently sometimes.
That just made me think of something. So a lot of times people ask, so if I put a pool in my yard in Minnesota, is that going to add value? And I say it's a net zero. It doesn't provide value. It doesn't really detract either because it's really in the eye of the buyer, right? To say, does that add value? A lot of times you're going to get a fraction on the dollars you pay because, there's a lot that goes into having a pool, leaves, maintenance, drain it because you don't want the water to freeze and it to break the pool. But then again, if you don't have a pool in a house that you have in Arizona, that actually takes away from your value. So it really depends on the surrounding houses and what the market's like.
I will say that it could also depend on the price point because at a $500,000-$700,000 house in Minnesota, having a pool in it may not add or probably doesn't change the value of the home really at all.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at a $2 million lakefront home having a pool,
and all the neighbors have a really cool pool with those water fountain things,
then that can make a difference.
Yeah.
At that level too, what is the pool made of can make a difference.
Just
what are all
plated.
the fun fancy features
Yeah.
of how it was built and what materials were used and is it heated and all that kind of stuff can play into it. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but essentially our job is looking at the data and trying to find data that supports this. Now, I guess one caveat to let people know is if you've got a single story rambler next to a 2-story home and your neighbor's 2-story home sold for X amount of dollars, your house is not worth X amount of dollars. They're different types of homes.
Yeah, an appraiser likely wouldn't use that as a comparable sale.
Yep.
Right.
So this is why you want an expert to really kind of help you figure out what your home is worth. But Zillow might pull in the facts that your neighbor.
Zillow's getting good, actually. I've been kind of following it for the last couple of years, and I'm it's getting better.
They're definitely getting better, absolutely. But there are ones that even doing the work ourselves manually can be challenging. So it's just not possible for an AI to do.
No, it's not. At least not yet.
Right.
And before you go on to the next question, just kind of a statement about how you price a home. It is kind of an art, not a science, because we do look at past data to dictate where we're going with price. But that's kind of the thing. If the market is insanely stable and it's not fluctuating, if seasonality didn't matter, that'd be great. But if you're looking at the last 6 months to price a home for spring or summer market, you're just doing the best you can at trying to figure out, okay, what's the market's appetite for this price point? Because we're looking at past data, but we have to kind of predict the future too.
Yeah.
So
on that note, how do I know when the right time to sell is?
Well, let's just cross off the fact that if you need to sell, if you got a job transfer and you need to get out, whenever that time is, if you have to, then you have to. In Minnesota, ideally, we're talking spring market. Summer too. Spring is, I think, the best. If you're in the heart of it, people aren't on vacations yet. Yeah, but there's also a caveat to that, because if you have to if you're also buying a home when you have to sell a home to be able to buy, if you're doing it in spring and you're doing it at the same time, you're going to run into a lot of competition as well on the buy side. So
you're going to be a buyer and one a seller you're going to be a buyer and a seller in the same market. So they're going to
great for selling. I'd rather not on the buy side if I had the choice. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are some things to consider. High level, when I am talking to a seller about timing, if they have a townhome or something where they're going to attract a first-time home buyer, the spring market for sure. Mm-hmm. If they have a lake home, very end of spring when the snow is gone but boating hasn't started yet.
Right.
That's when you want to sell a lake home. If you are selling to a family, then your goal, you want to make sure that your home is listed for a close date that would line up with the summer months.
After school.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you could list it in May because they'd close in June after the after the school year is over, because that's your market and that's when they want to move. If you have a single level home, your buyer is probably a downsizer that's looking for something that's going to be, easy on the knees.
Right.
And joints and all that kind of stuff. So they're looking for single level living, and that kind of home you can sell really any time of year.
There's not an abundance of them, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you need to do to get your house ready to sell?
Well, conveniently enough, I think it was our last podcast episode.
Yeah, I think episode 3.
Yeah, that was the whole premise of it.
Yeah.
So go back and watch that for more answers. But one is have a plan. Right, have a plan in place, because there's a ton of moving parts. I actually think on our last episode we didn't even get into everything because we just didn't have enough time. There could be a 5-part series on that, really.
For sure.
But yeah, just one thing you can do, even if you're not trying to sell your home, is to declutter, right? Also deferred maintenance, make sure those things are caught up, your home's functioning properly. So that, those are 2 huge things. I would just focus on that as a high level.
And those can take a lot of time.
Yeah, they could take a lot of time. But, that being said, when it comes time to pull the trigger, you're like, okay, now I have to get photos, I got to get the paperwork done, got to get my timeline set, and it's a little bit easy going from there. Yeah.
Yep. Also, depersonalize. You want to make sure that you depersonalize. You want to take yourself out of the home, because if you are like all of your preferences, I mean, everything from religion to politics to children, to, you know, design preference, you know, like styles, like preferences that maybe are a little bit more out there. You want to essentially neutralize it, because you want people to see your house and not you living in the house. People will, it's crazy, but people will buy or not buy houses that look like someone they, you know, like if they can see themselves in that home, they're like, oh my gosh, I love this home. But if they can't see themselves in whatever you have it decorated, or however the little personalized things, you can scare a buyer away too. So like I've seen, you know, like crosses and rosary, you know, and things like in listings where, or homes that have taken buyers to, and they're kind of like, I don't know about, or whatever it is.
Yeah, and it's not about, oh, your politics, religion, your family is wrong. It's great, but put yourself in the buyer's shoes.
Yep.
When you walk into a home, you want to see a blank slate. And I mean, we're talking to the paint too. Like, let's neutralize everything. You want to see a blank slate. You don't want to see somebody else's memory and somebody else's previous life. Yep. Right? So it just kind of ruins the vibe. Yeah.
It can also distract the buyer and start to, instead of thinking about like, oh, is this a nice home? Can I see myself living here? They start to like go down rabbit holes.
When did Grandpa move
oh, look at these
to the area?
Yeah. Or oh, look at all these books, and like, let me like scan their bookshelf, and it's like, they're not there to buy.
They're Packers fans?
Right.
Wow.
Sports is another one.
Yeah.
So those kind of things you want to make sure that you cut out and depersonalize as much as possible. How did I already ask this? How long will it take?
No, you didn't.
How long will it take to sell my home?
Good question. And that really depends on your timeline, for one. How long do you want it to take, too? Sometimes people are like, okay, yeah, let's list it now, but I need it to close on this date or later, right? So there's that. But in a perfect world, if you're just normal, you know, the first 14 days on the market are the most crucial for any sale. After that, statistically speaking, you know, the trend is just kind of going down, and less eyes are on your home, less showings happen. So right out of the gate, you want to be under contract in those first 14 days. Honestly, that's what they say. I say in the first 7. By the end of the first weekend is like ultra, like you want to have that done. To do that, you need to price accordingly. You can't go off of what, I see this all the time too with sellers, and nothing against you, we're all human, but when people say, okay, so you did your homework, you agent and you've done this before, but I feel that the home is actually worth, and then they give a higher dollar amount by like a sometimes substantial higher amount. And I'm like, okay, so, and I always ask, so what's telling you that? And they're like, I just know who it is. Bobby and Susie, their home down the street sold 3 years ago.
That
and
is
I'm like,
the 2-story instead of the Rambler, you know.
It's like 1,000 more square feet. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, we can't really use that as a data point. But
it's 30 years newer. It has, you know, 2 extra bedrooms and a bathroom, and
I know, but like that's just the thing. It's like, we're advisors. We give data, we give suggestions, and at the end of the day, we work for you as the seller. And if you say, I want to list my home higher than you say, I guess we'll do. I mean, if it's within reason, we'll do it. You know, and then we'll likely be having those conversations about price reductions. And if not that, if we do get under contract, we've had conversations that, hey, the appraisal came back and it's not going to cut it. It's too high. So and they get upset and everything. So, I mean, it's that emotional piece. But if you price right out of the gate, you should price to sell, and it should sell relatively quickly in kind of any market.
Yeah. Well, I think something to point out is that this is not the truth in every market.
No.
I would say like balanced to sellers markets, absolutely. Like this is probably a little bit more realistic, but if we are in a like in a serious buyer's market, like this does not hold, that timeline doesn't hold true necessarily. And also there's specific kind of properties that sit longer too. So like higher luxury, properties may not have as many buyers for them. They may sit on the market longer. Essentially what we're doing when we look at how long it should take for your specific home to sell is we're looking at the data of, okay, how many showings is it really taking in order to sell one of these homes? What are homes, like we can see like how many, like what price point of homes is getting a ton of showings. So like what kind of buyer activity is out there? How many buyers are looking for homes in that price point kind of?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of data that we can pull into this to help give you a better idea of like, this is how quickly I think that your home should sell. So
for sure. And that's priced appropriately. I guess I said priced appropriately. But the angle I was coming from was this voice. I don't know where I heard it, but it was any home in any market condition. I mean, we could plop right in the middle of '08, right? If priced low enough, we'll sell and sell
absolutely.
quickly. So It's like I can stand behind within the first 2 weeks that your home could get under contract. You just need to price correctly for that type of timeline.
Yep.
But you're right. If you just want to like keep it that middle average on homes, the market conditions totally make a difference.
Right. So in a buyer's market where the buyer is more in control, that the way that you would need to price it would be more aggressive than obviously if you're in a seller's market. You could probably price it right at what you think
right.
it's worth or more.
Push it. Yeah.
And it could,
Back in 2021, we saw that. People were like, no, I feel the home is worth more. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well,
and it would just totally happen.
It's just a supply. Like, it just comes down to, like, simple economics of supply and demand. There was ton of demand, very little supply, and the supply being houses and the demand being tons of buyers.
And the rates were under 3%, which was nuts to all happen at once.
Right.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think that's all good stuff.
Yeah.
How much will I pay in closing costs and fees when I sell?
Yeah, that is a good question. So in Minnesota, so you're paying, okay, let's just start with commissions. Everyone wants to talk about that. So in Minnesota, you're selling your home with an agent. You got to pay the agent commission on the listing side. I don't know, like an average is 3.3 to 3.5%, pretty typically seen across the board. You don't need to pay for a buyer agent commission, but most sellers, because that was the way it was done forever. And then, a couple of years ago, it was like, hey, those need to not be pre-negotiated. They need to be separate things. But sellers still budget that in because every time an offer comes in, the buyer agent is requesting that commission. And, that's anywhere from 2.7 to 3%. So you're looking at like a little over 6% on commissions alone if you do abide by kind of the societal norm with that. And then you have things like title fees. It's like in lieu of a lawyer doing your closing and making sure there's no liens on the property and stuff. You have prorated taxes. Like if you sell in the middle of the month, you're not paying taxes for the whole month, just those days. And that just depends on what day. The government, and the Conservation Society and all those little like line item fees, they get theirs too.
Yeah.
So you're probably looking at like 7 to 8% out the door. Oh, and then there's the mortgage payoff too. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, so that was it, right? So let's move on.
Yeah, that was it for the sellers.
Yeah, let's move on to some of the top questions that people looking to buy a home might ask or search online. 1, how much house can I afford?
Obviously, this is a question for your lender, technically, which we can introduce you to somebody, and I would actually love to introduce you to somebody. One of the big reasons around this, and I love to make introductions to people that I know and trust, because if I know and trust them, granted, I can't control your entire your entire home buying or selling experience because there's so many different people involved, like the title and the inspector and the lender and all appraiser and all these people. So there's tons of people in your real estate journey, but the more I trust them, the more I can vouch that you will have a good experience. Doesn't mean that things can go wrong still, absolutely, but
less likely to.
Right, less likely to.
And how much legwork goes into that? I mean, it takes years to find
those
people.
Really good relationships that you really love and trust. Absolutely. So ask your lender how much house you can afford. They're going to look at your, your income, how much debts you have that you have to pay every month, things like that. But I would say, just like rough numbers, if you make around $150,000, you don't have like student loans and big debts or things that you have to pay every month, you could probably afford about a $500,000 home. Now, whether or not you want to spend that money is something that's different to you. So essentially, you can go to your lender and say, hey, this is what I want to be able to spend every month. Like I want to spend $3,000-$4,000 a month on my mortgage, and I don't want to do more than that. And they can help you essentially like
budget it out.
Do that math and budget out what house you would actually be able to afford. So I think that's a good one.
No, that's a good answer. What's the first step in buying a home?
Call us.
Done. Okay, question 3. No, go ahead.
But seriously, I think that, a lot of people go to Zillow and they start looking at houses, and that's the normal one. That's like the first step is like, ooh, why don't I just peek and like, oh, I can go see it. Let me click this button. And I guess I highly advise against that. My preference and what I would advise is call us first or call a realtor first. Figure out who your realtor is, and then they'll help you figure out, like, whatever their process is, they'll help you work through that. And, maybe you realize it's like, I can't afford the house that I want right now, and that's okay. We can wait another year or two or however long you want to. But if you're like, I really want to get in a home this year, we can help you figure out how to do that too, and what that price point looks like and all of that kind of stuff. But I have a very methodical process, and I have a reason for it. There's a reason why I do what I do, and there's a reason why I don't take you to see a house on Zillow first before I talk to you. Ideally, will I do it? Absolutely.
Yeah, we partner with Zillow too. So sometimes it's like, hey, since you are that location's Zillow partner, there's a showing that they want to go see, on Thursday at noon.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'll go to that and then we'll talk. So it's kind of like an introductory thing. But ideally, you talk with us and get your plan.
Yeah. If you are thinking about buying or selling real estate, or your house or homes or investment, any of those things, rule of thumb, call us. A lot of people think like, oh, I'm not ready yet, or oh.
We also pride on like the no pressure approach. I hate pressure, and stuff like, I don't know. A lot of people, just think, oh, it's sales. They're going to like call me all the time.
Didn't buy cars because the car salesman was too pushy.
I'd spend more to like avoid that. So, yeah.
So I don't want to be that to someone else.
Right. Okay, how long does the home buying process take?
So, obviously it depends, but if you budget 3 to 6 months, I think that you're probably good. If you're seeing what you want available out there and you've got a good plan in place. Now, if you're buying and selling at the same time, those things can change, but the more specific of a house that you're looking for, and if it's harder to find what you're looking for, the longer that's going to take. So it just kind of depends, which is why if you come to us first, we can help you figure out, like if you're even starting to entertain the idea, you come to us, we can start helping you like figure out like what are the questions that we should be asking and how do we backtrack that timeline.
How much do I need for a down payment and closing costs?
So again, it depends. You can obviously put, I think that people think, you need 20% down. You absolutely don't. Sometimes you can avoid some additional fees every month with that. But again, talk to your lender because every lender and every bank is a little bit different. But sometimes you can buy a house for 3 to 5% down. If you're a physician, you can get a physician loan for 0% down sometimes.
Right. Or
if
VA.
If you're a veteran and you have access to a VA loan, you can get, obviously there are pros and cons to all of these different types of loan options, but there's
down is kind of like all pro. I love it.
I think so, but
it could make your monthly.
We do know people that are like, I can't put just 0% down. So, but even in the 0% down category, if you still have closing costs or things like that, so you do want to budget probably 2 to 3% minimum. I would say 3% minimum, even in the 0% down category.
Yeah, so you're saying like 2 to 3% on top of whatever your down payment is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, talk to us. We can help you figure out what that is. You can talk to a loan officer. If you don't have what you need yet, that's okay. We can help you create a plan to get there. Mm-hmm. So there's no downfall in calling us.
Are buyers paying our commission?
Typically, the seller is paying the commission. So, like, that's just the way that it's kind of working. There is we can get into the specifics of like how all the payment and stuff works, but this is one of the things that I do with my buyers is I go through all the steps in the process and understanding the finances behind it too, mm-hmm. and what the contracts say and all those kind of things so that they feel empowered and educated before they even take that like commitment step.
Right. What should I look for when I'm touring homes?
So I think one of the biggest downfalls that people make when they're looking at homes is they look at something that they need right now because they're used to renting.
That's a good point.
And so they buy something that they need right now. It's like, I have 3 kids, so we need a 4-bedroom house, and it's like, well, maybe that's true, but do you need room to grow into? Do you need, or maybe we don't have kids yet, but we're thinking about kids. So like, how many kids are we thinking about having? My best advice is to think about the next 5 to 7 years. On average, people stay in their homes around 7 years. Obviously, around those child raising years, like grade school, the kids are in school, people stay a little bit more stable. So maybe the first house they're in a little bit shorter, and on the house that they raise their kids in, they're in a little bit longer, things like that. But if you're thinking 5 years into the future, will this house still fit my needs? You're probably in a pretty good spot. So things like the size of the home come into play there. And then one of the big pieces of advice that I give people now is if we're going to see a house that you actually potentially want to buy, let's go see it in the daylight. Yeah. Depending on the time of year, if it's the middle of the winter and it's the shortest day of the year, like we probably got to see that house before 3 o'clock. Otherwise,
we're going to have to go back for a second showing just to see the outside.
And we're still going to need to go in the daylights at some point, somehow. You can take a flashlight, but you're going to miss things. And we want to make sure that the big things like the exterior, like the siding, that there's no cracks in the foundation that we're noticing, all that kind of stuff. So we just want to be able to see as much as possible, especially of those big things. Just taking a peek over the mechanicals and appliances and things like that are, bigger ticket items in a home too are important.
Okay. Bonus question.
Yeah.
Can I buy a home without a realtor?
Yes, you can. Obviously, you can sell a house without a realtor too. Obviously, I would advise against that. And I actually have a personal story about this that...
On the buying side?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
I have a little bit of a personal story about this. I did not buy a house without a realtor. I bought a house with a realtor. My first house was a duplex. And shout out to my dad. Thanks for helping me with, he was my realtor for this. But this is one of those stories where you want to be like this is just kind of a little bit of a lesson. Like, I knew my dad was going to take care of me no matter what, but my dad is a real estate investor. So he knows a ton about real estate. He's not an everyday transaction realtor. So now that I am an everyday, help people buy and sell homes realtor, there are a lot of things about the process that I didn't realize when I went through it the first time that I probably could have benefited from. Not that my dad did a bad job. He did an absolutely great job. So thanks again, Dad.
Let's go, Bob.
But maybe we could have negotiated a little bit more, but he didn't. He's like, I don't know, we can try. And he was great. And so I just I felt really comfortable because he's Dad.
Yeah.
But if I had another realtor that I trusted that knew the ins and outs of buying and selling real estate every day, I think that I could have potentially, one, felt way more confident in what I was doing and why I was doing it, and had a lot more of my questions answered because I'm very type A in that sense. And when I go through a process like this, I have a ton of questions. So I kind of felt a little bit in the dark about some of those still, or didn't have great answers.
Yeah.
That I could have had answers for. So, I don't know. You want to make sure that whoever is helping you buy or sell your biggest investment is like knows what they're doing. I probably could have saved the amount of money that, you know, like I think that we maybe got some closing costs and things like that on it, but maybe in the grand scheme of things, I could have negotiated more and could have paid for the realtor and or, you know, like I didn't pay for the realtor.
Right.
The seller paid a commission to my dad, the realtor. So, yeah. I built our home buying process and how we help buyers through the home buying process around how I would have wanted to be treated as a home buyer. So,
no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you absolutely can. Do not recommend.
Okay.
Just because there's like, it's a big investment to risk with you. You know, you don't know what you're doing. Like,
can I just speak to that? If you're buying a home without a realtor and there's a realtor listing the home, you're not buying a home without a realtor. You're just using the seller's agent who has the seller's best interest in mind for your legal documentation for the biggest purchase that you're likely going to make.
Yep.
So
they are supposed to represent the seller at that point.
And they are, first and foremost.
You're technically unrepresented unless you sign something that says that they are representing you as the buyer.
Right.
And in that case, they're not representing anyone. They're essentially facilitating because they're dual agents.
Right.
So you just want to make sure that you have like proper representation and someone's looking out for your best interest because they can catch a lot of things that you just don't know because you're not doing this every day. So anyways, I think that was a good bonus question.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to?
I could touch on the can I sell a home without a realtor as well.
Okay.
So you can, obviously those are called FSBOs or for sale by owner. You can, let me just come out of the gate with a stat. You are 8 times more likely to end up in court if you do so.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a real thing. I think that was like a year ago that came out. Pretty wild, not surprising. But then again, just like I was saying, if you are listing it on your own, here's another thing. Every time I look at for sale by owner home, it's always like 250, 270 days on market. And like they've done the price drops like pretty dramatically. And agents don't want to work with them if they don't have to because they're trying to like skimp on, you know, commission and whatever. It's just, and then you got to like guide them a lot of times like, okay, so fill this out, you know. It's like you're almost kind of doing 2 jobs even if you're just helping them understand what the offer looks like. So agents kind of avoid that for one.
Sellers net less money
overall.
Yeah,
for sure.
When they sell by themselves too.
And that's not even factoring in like
they think that they're saving, but they're not.
They are. But then if that's not even factoring in like, can you put a value to your hourly rate? Like how many hours do you spend on this learning and doing and trying to get it? And then like you're not saving money at all if you had somebody else take that over. And you're potentially putting a lot on keeping a lot of money on the table. And you're also playing with the buyer's agent who does this all day, every day. So they're going to try to get a great deal for their buyers, and you're not considered. So you can, but once again, don't recommend.
Absolutely. So anyways, any last words?
No, any last words?
Yeah, I mean, no, not like that.
No, I know. I just like, it's funny. No, I think that was good. We kind of covered all the main things.
Yeah. Obviously, we hope you found this helpful, that these answered some of, you know, your questions more than just the canned AI responses. Right. If you have any additional questions, obviously, please reach out to us. We'd love to answer those for you. And
stay tuned for next week. We'll be doing another one of these.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time.
See you later. If you enjoyed today's episode, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.
We'd love it if you'd share this with someone who'd be interested. And don't hesitate to reach out if you want to connect. We're always happy to chat. Thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you next time.